BYU Basketball gears up to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders coming up tomorrow at the United Supermarkets Arena. And I had a chance to catch up with a Texas Tech insider to get the lowdown on the Red Raiders. Here's my conversation with Nathan Giese from the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. Big-time matchup in the Big 12 Top-15 showdown taking place in Lubbock, and BYU versus Texas Tech feels like it's whenever these two programs and athletic departments meet, it's a big game, and that's what's going to be happening on the hardwood at the USA United Supermarkets Arena in West Texas. Tip-off at 6, 7 o'clock in Central Time Zone right here on KSL NewsRadio. You can watch the game on ESPN. And to get the lowdown on the Red Raiders, joined now by Texas Tech basketball beat writer Nathan Giese of the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. And Nathan, a little bit over the midway point of this season for Texas Tech, how would you assess how this year has gone for year 3 under Grant McCasland?
Yeah, it's kind of been a wonky year just because they've had so many injuries that beyond JT Toppin, they haven't had their full front court rotation. So they've had to go pretty small a lot of the year. They're trying to get those guys back. Luke Bamboye, the shot blocking VCU transfer, he's kind of the big one that they're missing right now. But then Josiah Mosley, the Villanova transfer, he's supposed to provide some more depth at the forward spot at least, or even play a smaller 5 guy. He hasn't played all year. So, and they've had a lot of injuries with the guard rotation too. Tyree Bryan's been kind of in and out too. Jalen Petty missed a game or two because he broke his nose, but he's been pretty good as a freshman throughout this year. They're finding their way right now, and I think you kind of look at the record. It's not sterling, but every loss is to a team that's ranked ahead of them in every poll out there. They had the win over Duke. They kind of blew that game against Houston a little bit. They probably should have got that one, but Houston's really good. And it was on the road. You're not going to shake your head too much at that one. They're in a spot right now, though, where they're starting to find their cohesiveness on the defensive end of the floor because they had guys together more consistently, and that's really shined. They ranked, I believe Bart Torvik has them 5th or 6th in the nation defensively over the last month, and that was a really big problem for them in the first month. So they're starting to find that, and they're also trying to find some identity of outside of JT Toppin and Christian Anderson offensively. You kind of know what you're going to get from those two, but you need other guys to be able to kind of step up. And Donovan Atwell's done a really good job helping out there. Jalen Petty and Lawan Watts, he can kind of hit or miss sometimes offensively, but if he can kind of get going, that's a really strong number 3 for him.
And that's a great breakdown on this Tech team to this point. And I'm curious, with compared to last year's Elite 8 team, what is the maybe biggest difference stylistically, if at all, for this year's group in your vantage point?
There's not a huge difference because what they kind of did was they looked at last year's team and the guys they were going to lose and basically just tried to find kind of replicas of who those guys were. So like Chance McMillan, Kerwin Walton, those were supposed to be Donovan Atwell and Tyree Bryan. You lose Darian Williams, Lawan Watts is basically like, hey, he can do the exact same kind of thing, just on a different kind of level, different experience level there. And then Federico, that's the Bamboye, but injuries they factor into all this. It's not reaching the same level as what that team was, but you also have to kind of consider Tech wasn't that level all year. They hit that level at about this time last year when they started getting all these guys together a little bit more. Like last year, JT missed like all of December with an ankle injury, and it took him a little while to kind of get going. But once he popped off, he just kind of kept ascending throughout the year. That's kind of what they're hoping now this year. The big thing right now is they need to get more out of Tyree Bryan. He's the Santa Clara transfer, supposed to be a 3-and-D guy. He's had a couple of injuries that have kind of sidelined him and just hampered his development in the system. But if they can get him to a level that they kind of expected before the year, especially on the defensive end, that can take them a long way. They just don't have that right now. It's still kind of a work in progress as they kind of get more bodies together on the floor.
Getting a lowdown on the Texas Tech Red Raiders with Nathan Giese. You can check out his bylines, the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. Number 1 3-point shooting team in the Big 12 is Texas Tech. how big of a piece is 3-point shooting to the identity of this team and their success?
Well, they absolutely have to have it because if anything, you need that shooting to take attention away from the paint so JT Toppin can kind of operate. But what they're really trying to do is they're trying to spread you out even more with JT. What he has not been hitting threes like he did last year. He was never a great 3-point shooter, but it was something that could kind of keep teams honest. Entering the game on Wednesday against Utah, he was 4 for 27. It was not a thing you kind of wanted to see from him. But then he went 3 for 4. Graham McCaslin kind of said JT's been working really hard and getting a softer shot from 3. And if that can kind of open things up, that opens up the paint for Lawan Watts to kind of operate and drive into the lane. Christian Anderson to kind of get into the lane there. They need the 3-point shooting. It's mainly Atwell and Anderson. They're both above 40%. Petty's a pretty good 3-point shooter too. But he's on the smaller side, so he's not going to be able to get shots off as consistently. And he's kind of that 4th or 5th option most of the time when he's on the floor. But they need the 3 to open up the paint for Toppin, and that's where he can really cook.
You brought it up earlier that, Bart Torvik metrics have Texas Tech's one of the best defensive teams as of late. This is a little bit of forecasting. If you had to get into the mind of Coach McCaslin, how do you think, or who do you think they throw at AJ DeBonsa for BYU to try to slow him down? Because every game he's been getting his, no matter the circumstances, it seems.
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky thing is that I think so. Donovan Atwell is the one that's usually assigned to the opponent's number 1 wing guard offensive threat. So you're probably going to see him on DeBanza most of the time. The question then becomes, how do you kind of handle Richie Saunders? Because he kind of plays that wing forward. He can kind of spread you out, and they don't really have a great option there defensively. That's where having a guy like Tyree Bryant, if he could make that jump, that would really help you. But you're probably not going to be expecting that for this one. So I would kind of expect Watts to kind of get Saunders there and then kind of fill in the rest and figure it out. But I would expect Atwell to get the DeBanza assignment.
I'm curious, what's a big game atmosphere like at USA, United Supermarkets Arena? I'm sure BYU fans will have a little bit of a presence there. They always seem to find their way into these road venues, but it's going to be obviously a rocking environment, I would imagine. But for people that haven't experienced it, how would you describe these big game atmospheres at USA?
Well, I think BYU and Kansas are the only ones that have arenas that can kind of match how many seats United Supermarkets Arena has. So it's a little bit similar to that, but it's loud when they got the students there, which they do now. It's raucous. I mean, they had JT Toppin jersey giveaway night the other night, and that place was loud it was Utah. And Utah wasn't a great marquee draw, but whenever you get a marquee opponent here, you really feel the energy of the building, and it's something that has really contributed to the last couple of years because you kind of need that crowd support, that energy to get your team going, and that's something that Tech really feeds off of on the home environment.
Last thing for you, Nathan. Again, Nathan Giese of the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. Check out all of his work leading up to tip-off and in-game and post-game at the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. This is kind of a big picture question with BYU and Texas Tech, because I brought it up earlier with the football game. That was a big one. Massive game, Big 12 championship, and the regular season game in Lubbock. Do you think these two athletic departments could maybe be the bell cows of the Big 12 potentially? Because it just seems like the commitment both off the field, on the court, I mean, the coaching staff, retaining, it seems like these athletic departments do it better than nearly anyone in the Big 12 right now. Do you think this could have long-term continuity with these two athletic departments if you had to have a crystal ball and gaze into it?
Well, I think that's kind of the idea, because once Texas and Oklahoma left for the SEC, the league basically needed at least one school, maybe 2 or 3, to kind of up their game and say, hey, we're going to kind of lead the charge here. And I think if you just look at Texas Tech, I mean, right now it's kind of an insane time at Texas Tech. I mean, obviously the run to the Orange Bowl, the college football playoff, Big 12 championship against BYU. Men's basketball has been consistent the last few years under McCaslin. Right now, the women's basketball team's undefeated, and ranked in the top 20. And then we got softball season coming up, and they got a national championship favorite on there. It's a time where Texas Tech is really putting its stamp on, this is what we expect every year. This is, we want to be this team. And it's going to change for different sports. Like Arizona is obviously pretty dang consistent for men's basketball. Kansas is, they can kind of figure it out with this new era. South's kind of struggled there, but they're always going to kind of be there. But if you're looking at across the board sports, I do think Texas Tech and BYU are kind of neck and neck and trying to figure out who's going to be the top dog in this new era.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday, tip-off, 6 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Central Time. Pregame here on KSL begins at 5. Nathan, appreciate the breakdown. Looking forward to your coverage inside the USA, and we'll talk again hopefully down the road when Texas Tech comes to Provo later this season.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Mitch Harper here with you. BYU Basketball takes on Texas Tech tomorrow. Tip-off at 6 p.m., pregame at 5 right here on KSL. It's a top 15 clash at United Supermarkets Arena, USA as they call it, in West Texas, Lubbock, Texas. BYU and Texas Tech, it's the one athletic department where it seems like BYU just can't get a win against these guys. Football, we know what happened there. 2 blowout losses. And in basketball so far, BYU is 0-3 against the Red Raiders since joining the Big 12. BYU football did get a win back in 2023, but it seems like the Red Raiders have BYU's number, but this is a coin flip type game. This is going to be a good one. Number 11 BYU versus number 15 Texas Tech. And as you heard in that insider breakdown of the Red Raiders, you know, Tech's had a little bit of an up and down year, but all of their losses, 4 losses this season, have been to really good teams. Kind of similar to BYU, where BYU's 1 loss was to an excellent team in UConn, who's a top 5 team in the country. So these are excellent teams that I think have definitely second weekend potential, but beyond that could be Final Four good. I think Tech's type of team that could get hot and get on a run if the bracket breaks their way and gets to the Final Four. I think BYU's got a little bit higher in talent at the top of the roster, obviously, but this is a real big challenge to go on the road. The good thing for BYU is that they have been good in road games so far in Big 12 play, 2-0 in the league on the road thus far, but I think this is by far the toughest test to date. Some areas that I'm kind of curious to watch for in this game. Got to get off to a strong start. I always like road games when you can navigate the early emotions, because I think that United Supermarkets Arena is going to be off the charts. They're going to be energized. This is a big moment for them. This is a big moment for BYU in building up a resume and trying to move up a seed line. I think that's what's at stake here, is that beyond Big 12 championship, you're trying to get into a position where you're a 2 seed, maybe a somehow 1 seed potentially. That seems a little bit much right now, but this is the type of win. If you can go on the road, if you're BYU, and get this one, I think it moves you from a 3 potentially to the 2 seed conversation if you can get this win. And you've got to start off strong, because if you're digging yourself a hole early in this one and trying to play catch up, it's going to be harder to mount a comeback. Even though BYU is a phenomenal second half team, you just want to get off to a strong start and kind of keep the fans, the crowd at bay in this one. I'm also curious to see how just AJ DeBonsa feels. I mean, he was under the weather, then he landed on that shoulder, right shoulder, in the first half against TCU. Still had a fantastic performance. That second half, how he played under the weather and all the circumstances, you would have thought, okay, this is the one night where his streak of high-level scoring ends. No, dude still gets 25. And he still makes plays that just make you go, we're watching a guy that could be the face of basketball around the world right now at BYU. That's what we're watching. We're watching a generational talent that you might never see again come through the Marriott Center. Probably, I mean, you're talking about one of the best players on the planet. So again, just see how AJ feels and how he kind of bounces back after a game that not the greatest circumstances, quick turnaround going on the road now to Lubbock. Curious to see how he feels and see how Texas Tech kind of defends him. What personnel they throw at him. That's something I'm really curious to see. Hit the three ball. Rob Wright has been outstanding shooting the three this year. It's been kind of an under-the-radar storyline. 45.7% from three is Rob Wright, and that wasn't the calling card for him when he signed with BYU out of the transfer portal from Baylor. You thought, he'll occasionally have some games where he can knock it down, but probably more of a guy in the 30s from the three-point range. Rob Wright's been sensational from three this year. Richie Saunders, 39.7%. If BYU shoots above 40% from three, and I say this because Texas Tech is so good shooting the three, they're the number one three-point shooting team in the Big 12. BYU's got to shoot it at a good clip, 40% or above, but those are the top two guys shooting the three for BYU. The question I have, too, in this game as well, who's the X factor in this one for the Cougars? And whenever you go into a hostile road environment, you need someone unlikely, or maybe unexpected. You should say unlikely, but someone unexpected to provide a significant boost to go get a road win. Think back to last year when BYU got a double overtime win over Iowa State in Ames, a place where nearly no one wins in Hilton Coliseum. BYU got an unexpected 22-point performance off the bench from Dallin Hall. I'm not asking for 22 because BYU's got a big three that can get you 50 on the low end. They could go up to 80 points on the high end. So you don't need that big of a workload from the bench in terms of offensive production, but who could give you maybe 7 to 10 points off the bench? Yeah, the guy I'm going to go with is Mihailo Boskovic. Mixed bag in the non-conference from Mihailo, especially starting the season where he couldn't hit a three. But I think his contributions quietly have been really good game after game, especially in Big 12 play for BYU. I think he's just kind of stacking up those games. That's kind of a Kevin Young cliche, but it feels like that's what he's doing right now, to where you can count on him every single game. And that's what you want to see from a BYU team that on that second unit. Who are guys you can count on? Abdullah Bidu Ahmed, he's going to be interesting to watch as far as his availability for this one because he's dealing with the shoulder. So it could create an opportunity for Mihailo to get some valuable opportunities and being a stretch five, extend out JT Toppin and knock down some shots for BYU, but also defensively, what contributions can he provide? I'm going to go with Mihailo as an unexpected key performer in this game for BYU. Since BYU joined the league, as I noted, Texas Tech has had BYU's number. But Texas Tech has been prone since BYU joined the Big 12 to lose games in league play at home. The past 2 years, they've lost 5 games in Lubbock in Big 12 play at home. So it's not like they're unbeatable. BYU's lost their share of home games too. So this is just the Big 12. It's hard to win every single time out, but it is possible. Teams can get wins in Lubbock, but I do think this is going to be a really revved up crowd. I'm fascinated to see the matchup between Keba Keita and JT Toppin, the Big 12 Player of the Year, reigning Player of the Year. And Toppin is just a bucket, man. He's so crafty, so many different moves that he has. You watch that game against Utah, dude was on pace to potentially go off for 50. The way he was dominating in the first half against Utah and the way they were utilizing him and kind of stretched that lead out and got a big cushion against the Utes. But Keba Keita is one of the more unique athletic bigs in the league, and the intensity, the explosiveness that he plays with, seeing him kind of getting back to full strength after the ankle injury, this is a perfect spot to see Keita unleash. I think back to last year's game in the Big 12 tournament against Houston, where even though BYU was down big, Keita was just a man on a mission saying, I'm not going down without a fight. And I just feel like Keita is going to bring an intensity in this game that's going to be a lot of fun to see how he battles with JT Toppin in this one. Let's give you my score prediction for the Cougs and the Red Raiders.
Score prediction. Will BYU come out on top? It's time for Mitch's score prediction for the next game.
I'm calling it, folks. I'm saying the Cougs get a massive win. I'm going with BYU 82, Texas Tech 79. Now, full disclosure, my last pick in Lubbock was a little brutal. That was bad. The football game, I thought BYU football was going to pull the upset there. But I'm optimistic. BYU 82, Texas Tech 79. I think the Cougs find a way to get it done. I don't think they have an answer for Richie Saunders. I think Richie Saunders has a big game in this one to help BYU get the road win in Lubbock and really set the table for people to start giving the respect to BYU. Because, again, I think if you win this game, this is one of the best road wins, if you can get it, in college basketball this season. Because Lubbock, I mean, it gets energized, man. There's been some of those games where, what was it, when Chris Beard rolled back to Lubbock? That was during the Mark Adams time. That Texas Tech fan base, they can get fired up. We saw it in football. I mean, that was an energetic, revved up crowd going into that one. It is going to be super hostile. It's going to take BYU to play one of their best games, probably their best game of the season, to get this one. But I think they can do it. And I measure this one similar to the UConn game, but that UConn game, you didn't have Cada. You didn't have Kennard Davis. You have those guys for this one. So BYU 82, Texas Tech 79. I'm going to go with the Cougs to get it done. We'll have full coverage tomorrow. Cougar Sports Saturday from noon to 3. And then pregame coverage on the legacy home of the Cougars begins at 5 with Greg Wrubell and Mark Durant from Lubbock. And then the call of the game at 6 p.m. And you can also watch the telecast on ESPN as well. But that's going to do it for this Friday edition of Cougar Tracks. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast and subscribe to the KSL Sports YouTube. Like this video. It helps out the show a ton. And I will talk to you next time here on Cougar Tracks. It's powered by KSL Sports.